All right, we are live. So this is the Relational Embodied Intimacy Group. I'm so proud and excited since I asked you. I had to wait a couple weeks because you're so good at what you do. I'd like to introduce Jonathan Hudson, who is one of the main people of the Sextraordinary Living. And it's really about somatic sexual healing. And I'm an embodiment person, which is somatics on some level. And it's the only thing I want to talk about these days. No matter what I'm talking about, we have to include the body and all of its history. And today we're going to talk about jealousy. So welcome, Jonathan.
Yeah, well, it's so fun to be here. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And for people watching live, I'm going to be flipping back and forth between Facebook and here. If you have any questions or anything you want to share, I will read it out loud. And any comments are welcome. Like, this group is really about taking risks, just opening up so that we can relate better as human beings. And then if intimacy comes up, sexual intimacy or just human being intimacy, that it's from the container of we are human beings with desires and needs and passions, and they're all safe here. So, yeah.
Amen to that.
Yeah, it's funny. People like usually ask like, oh, should we pre-talk? And I'm like, no, let's bring everything. So we actually just came on live and I almost slipped out something I wanted to share. But I want to ask you first, like, yeah, anything you want to share, or where are you at today with you posted something about jealousy, and that's how this topic got created here.
It actually, the post came from working with a few men in our business, and they were both in relationships, and I noticed that really big in them was this huge jealousy of their partner, who were very successful women coaches, and they had a lot of contacts, a lot of friends. They would speak on stages, and while every other part of these men, you could count them as a divine masculine, right? They were embodied, they were these beautiful men, awakened, and yet there was still this like ugliness of possession inside. And so that's really what inspired that. Was my belief is you can't embody that true power of the masculine or the feminine until you look at inside your triggers and we talked about the embodiment of, when people get jealous, they get that thing in their stomach, right? That green monster, and it makes you feel all and the root of that is not your partner. The root of that always goes back to that abandonment. I'm not good enough, and lack of confidence, or that time my partner did cheat on me. And we project all of that junk in our history into every person we meet. And as a relationship coach and an intimacy coach, jealousy is like the number one killer of relationships, because what you're telling your partner is, I don't trust you. Now the truth is, I don't trust me, right? And a lot of times it's projections of my own past too, when I cheated or when I haven't been truthful, and therefore the whole world must be like me, and I'm going to get cheated on. And so, yeah, that was the inspiration of it, and my own journey through it, and to the other side, which is, it's so beautiful. I am married, for all you that want to know. I have an amazingly wonderful, beautiful wife. We are not very specific context of what everything is to say here. We're a monogamous couple. That's kind of a new term out there. We do, sometimes go to events where there's play parties and stuff, and we do so as a couple together. But of course, in that environment and context, there's a chance to practice live. What happens when my woman kisses another man, right? Much less goes to a party and hugs another man. What goes on?
I'm out, dude. Something about the mic, like it sounded really good, and then it got muffled.
How's that?
That's great. Whatever you just did.
Let me just sit a little closer to the camera here. Maybe
that. Great. Yeah, because I really want to hear what you're saying.
Yeah. So really, that's what it comes down to. Is I'm in a place now where I am, I have no jealousy. When I watch my beloved engage with a man, it's so beautiful, because what I realize is I used to be jealous. I'd say about 10, 15 years ago, I was jealous. I was jealous most of my life. And then I was in a very short-term marriage with a woman way more jealous than me. It was like every little thing. And I got to experience the other side of it. And when I came out of that as part of my awakening process, which involved a lot of things, and got into a new relationship, one is that I hold my freedom dearly. My freedom to be able to walk into an event and be myself. It doesn't mean I want to sleep with every woman I hug, but to be able to hug a woman and be fully present without worrying about what is my partner going to say. And so this came down to, I don't own my partner. I don't own my wife. She's not property that I can say, you can do this and you can do that. And because you decided to marry me, you've got to get rid of your male friends, or you can't go to dinner with Mike. That's ridiculous, because I wouldn't want that done to me. And somewhere in all of that was this beautiful aha moment of what a lot of people call compersion. I don't know if you've heard that word.
No.
Compersion means that your partner is so free that when you look at them engage with another, whether it's a hug or a kiss or whatever, you find absolute beauty in it. Like, you want, more than anything else, you want to see your partner happy and alive. And that takes precedence over any type of, you can't do that because basically I'm not secure enough to handle it.
Amazing. Well, I'm grateful when men like you show up at a party. Like, I've been at parties when as another half of a couple is so embracing that in their relationship, because I feel your appreciation of women, of humans. And so it's really safe for me because you are supported by a woman and I know you're doing your work. And so there's a part of me that, you know, when I go to sex parties or different kinds of parties that are edgy and people are looking to push their edge, that you have tools, right? That you're in a place of, like, there's a smiling, loving woman, maybe somewhere across the room, and I can be my full self with you, and my boundaries are present, but I'm not like in ninja stance.
Correct.
So it's interesting, as I was preparing and rocking out, I thought, like, where am I jealous, you know? And I'm insanely jealous. And I'm so shy about that I was like, I think I even do a lot of my lives to get people jealous, like men especially. Because it's my way of saying, you see, you fucked it up and now I'm amazing and you don't get this. Like, something like that.
That's the games we all play with jealousy too.
So it runs deep, and I can't imagine, as you say it, I like cringe. If I let all of my jealousy be known, that someone would still want to be with me. That feels really vulnerable, but also so freeing to share.
Well, and it's true. I mean, listen, Heike and I didn't come into this relationship like, go do whatever you want and have fun. There were a lot of really heavy conversations along the way that I think one of the things that makes a conscious relationship, that new term or the new paradigm, whatever we call it, is that we don't run away from these things anymore. And because we have done so much of our own work, we can sit in the muck and hold it, and then come out the other side where it's absolutely beautiful. So yeah, there's been, you know, certainly a little bit on Heike's end, learning to adjust to some of these things a little bit, and there have been bumps in the road of stretches, like you said, into the edgy area. And one of the things that, you know, you really have to have in place in those kind of circumstances is a way out, is a safety zone. We've tripped and fallen a couple times, and all you do is you get up, you learn, you dust yourself off, you say, well, okay, that didn't work. Let's not give up on it. Let's try it again. But yeah, I know this jealousy thing is really such a killer. I think I'm probably the biggest pusher when we do go to parties. I'm like, you know, if she sees somebody she likes, I'm like, baby, go kiss her, go kiss him. And then it took her a while to be like, really? And I'm like, yeah, go. Because Shane, there's something, and I know most people haven't experienced this because they haven't gotten over the green monster. But when you look at your partner kissing somebody else, you get to see them from a whole different perspective, right? Because when you're kissing somebody, they're like right in front of you.
Yeah.
But if you could look across the room and see a huge smile on their face, see them kissing somebody and having fun, for me, it's a turn on. It's like, wow, look at my partner. She's alive. She's
Yeah.
you know, she's having the time of her life. And everybody in that room, including her, knows that at the end of the night, I am going home with her. And she knows that at such a deep level that the cages are open, so to speak, because we meet people and we put them in these cages. We
Yeah.
put people in a corral of what you can and can't do, and then wonder why so many relationships fizzle and we lose our spark and we lose that fun edge. And
Hmm.
as you know, as somebody who's been to some of these play parties, it's, at least for me and Heike, when we go and we dabble in these little areas, when we come home, that energy is palpable and stays with us for days, right? And it's just like, oh, and it just brings us even closer together.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I've been to parties and I'm always just a voyeur. Like I don't participate. I just sort of like, and the energy is palpable and it like fuels me for days.
Yes.
And I'm like loving hearing this in concept. And I also know that jealousy is some scarcity, right? Like there's insecurity there. And I think that's the part that I really don't like exposing. Because look, I have my shit together. I'm beautiful, la la la. But like, I didn't bargain for this. Like I've been to, and Om Rupani was a guest on the show, and I've been to DS, and to me that's like as a single woman. So I love it, you know. But I always sort of push my mind's edge and think like, what if I were to come here with a loved one? And I have fantasies like, oh, I'll bring ex-boyfriends and they're gonna see me, and then I'm like, but I have to see them.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, then I shut down my fantasy. I'm like, no. So I don't even let my mind go there. It's really, yeah. So for anybody watching, like if this is like a blast of news where they're just like, you what? You watch that? Yeah. Because this group originally was for parents and loved ones of children with autism. And
Well,
then
we've probably gone, yes. But even parents of children with autism, we're all in relationships.
exactly. And why it's so important is because it's behavior, right? I'm a behaviorist. So I would watch nonverbal children and I'd watch nonverbal adults and know that pleasure is a birthright. And
Amen.
and so it makes sense that it's here. So for my own personal, I'm like, what's next for me? But what's next for people who are just like wrapping their brains around jealousy as a turn on?
I don't think jealousy can be a turn on.
Oh, right. Not jealousy, but see,
If,
but the energy.
it's baby steps.
Okay,
If you find that you have this jealousy, it's not, and I want to be clear, I hope I don't come across as judging something as good or bad or right or wrong. These things exist. We all have wounds going back to our childhood, wounds with relationships. I had plethora of them. I've done a lot of somatic work myself to move those out of my body. Somatics is one of the most effective programs that there is on the planet because, like you said earlier, we're getting the body now involved with the head. So you can talk about these things ad nauseum, but that doesn't cure the heartache, the actual heartache in your chest from when that person cheated on you. And so you don't just dive into a play party and say, yippee, let's go, or just think you can go to a party and start hugging every woman in the room. Knowing where your partner is, Heike and I have a rule called that you run at the speed of the weakest partner. And so if your partner pulls a muscle, you're not running while they're walking. You slow down to where they are. And taking that, and not even to a play party context, taking that just to a regular party where there's people if you see that jealousy coming up, the first step to realize is it's not your partner. And this is the work. This is the work. If your partner's really not doing anything but hugging somebody, and you're attaching all of this meaning to it, the first step is to stop and say, wow, none of this is real. I am making this up. I'm making this up in my head. My body is reacting from something that happened a long time ago. And get curious. What is it? What is it that's causing this, unusual? Because jealousy is not logical. You think ahead of time, it's no big deal, and then something fires, like any of our triggers, right? They just come out of the blue sometimes.
Yeah.
But we look at them and we're like, wow, where did, first of all, you tell your partner, this is my stuff. This is
Mhm.
not yours. You don't blame your partner for hugging, Mike. I'm just using a name at random. You look inside like we do in so many areas and say, what is it about my own insecurity that's causing me to want to lock down or own my partner? Because I don't own her. That's probably the biggest realization for people to take away. You do not own another human being. Now, relationships can have agreements.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You want to be 100% monogamous? Great. You want to be poly? Great. There's no better than or worse than. But those are agreements. But as soon as we put the subconscious demands on people, questioning, why they were on this phone call so long, or that guy used to be your boyfriend and you had a text from him, there must be something going on. You're making all of this up. And when things actually happen, yes, they happen. But if you're carrying all this luggage with you into your next relationship, you're just going to repeat the same patterns over and over and over until you look inside and say, wow, that is when that guy in high school told me I was ugly and fat and left me for another woman. And therefore, I'm going to prove the rest of my life that I'm unlovable and everybody is going to leave me. And of course, that even goes back further. If your father leaves you or your mother leaves you, then it's even more ingrained. People don't love me. People always leave me. And that pattern continues to show up the rest of their life. And the worst part is, like I just said, you actually prove it to yourself to be true.
Yeah.
You create drama because it has to be true. It has to be true that somebody's going to leave you or cheat on you. And so by creating this drama, you push them away and you make it happen. That's the other psychology behind it, especially when we're young kids.
And you don't share it, right? When you do share it, it's not right.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And now it's great to be able to share with your partner, hey, this feeling came up and let's look at this together, right? Let's find this thing in my life and take a look at it. Because a lot of times just looking at it, just shining the light on it.
Yes.
Is
Sharing.
Yeah. And sharing it and having somebody hear it is enough to start the healing process.
And it's in that piece of like how to speak up when there's insecurity, how to speak up in a real time moment so that it's not like the party's over and now it feels like the perfect time, but it's like have permission to share with a partner like, hey, something's going on for me. And to like maybe request that they come out of what they're involved in. Like, oh man, I work with mostly women and that's grin and bear it thing comes up so much.
Yeah.
And, it's a good cookie to deal with.
What are the worst things in the world to grin and bear it? Because back to somatics, what happens is you swallow your truth. And you swallow it and you swallow it and you swallow it. And then you wonder why you're so underneath it all, feel like you want to just rip the world apart because you never got to express the truth. And it ends up just stacking on top of each other. I believe that's the cause of so much of our sickness. Our cancers, our internal system is so wound up with not speaking up, not speaking the truth, and like you said, in the moment. Yeah. How can I have a little small thing that, if anything comes up, it never really does, but we have a safety valve that all we have to do is walk by to the other and put our hand on the shoulder, and all that means is whatever is happening right now has to come to an end, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And then we can go talk about it. And so having those things in place is really, really important. I remember Ike and I had been to a few play parties where we walked in the door, and I'm the Gemini me. I'm like, yippee, with playtime. Where she didn't like the energy. There may have been some people there that were a little creepy or whatever, and she was just like, listen, I don't like this, let's go home. And I had to learn very quickly that when she says, let's go home, I don't argue, I don't debate, I don't get mad about it, I don't hold it against her. I just defer to her greater knowledge. Because when I have pushed that in the past, I ended up making her sick, or maybe her stomach got sick, or she got a bad headache and didn't want to be there. None of that is worth it to my partner. I want to see her happy. Remember, that's my ultimate goal. I want to see her happy. I want her to feel free. Heike's biggest word is freedom. And
Hmm.
so mine too. I want people to feel free and alive and be in this relationship because I wake up every morning and choose this woman
Hmm.
every day, not because of some marriage vow or because some have to. I wake up and I'm like, I love you today and probably tomorrow and probably next week, but I can't even guarantee you next year because I'm not there yet. And so you brought up this communication thing between people. It is so important to authentically share without blaming your partner.
And I love that your communication is a touch on the shoulder, because sometimes actually I've experienced like I can't get these freaking words out, or a stutter comes out. Like I'm powerful, but in a moment of intimacy where something's coming up, I don't want to cry all of a sudden. I want to be cool, like all these things. And to even get a noise out is
Yes.
like impossible. So, and that can be in a long-standing relationship at any point, because like when it's in the body, there's no like logic, like, oh, I know this person forever. Why can't I speak? And
Yeah.
actually, just a touch is a communication, or a hand sign or something that says, like, help, I need help.
Well, especially for women, right? You brought that up. You bring this, in your DNA and generational and all the stuff that's going on the planet with all these women not able to speak up, and you carry that with you. And so when these things happen, there's like this, it's almost like a genetic response of a shutdown, right? That I really believe you carry from generation to generation. And again, that's what somatics helps get rid of.
Yes.
But you can't control it. It's just an auto response. So yeah, having different kinds of safety valves make a lot of sense.
And for men as well, can have the same thing go on, like
Totally.
tough. And the opposite of that is to be like, what the fuck? Like it's just to really be a volcano that's
Yeah.
carrying all that luggage. That's like, I'm going to open my luggage on you right now. And then, then there's like no meeting point, and it can just spin out of control so fast.
It does spin out of control. And then what happens? Next party I go to, if I got yelled at for the first one, I'm going to be walking on eggshells.
Mm-hmm.
And the more that happens, the more I'm walking on eggshells. And then the more I'm actually losing my spark. I'm losing the very person that she was attracted to in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I see that in relationships so much. Two people come together and they have their own life and their own friends, and they're like, wow, right? And there's a spark. And then little by little, they lose their friends. They lose, and it's just them, because everybody else has been disallowed as part of the relationship. And then they look at each other and they're like, I'm not even turned on by you anymore.
Right. They're just projects. I have some couple friends that are just always working on themselves together, and they're just like projects of each other.
Yeah. And the truth is, they're not the same people that met.
It's true.
They don't have the fire. So it's very important to allow your partner to feel free within whatever agreements you want to come to.
Great. I love that you said that, because just to reinforce that you're not saying like go be free, and don't be monogamous, but
No.
even the freedom to have like a beautiful conversation with the opposite sex, and
Yeah.
be intimate in conversation and dialogue. Like I remember I was dating this man, I must have been 24, and he was so close to one of my best friends. They were passionately talking, and I was so uncomfortable. I was like, what the fuck could they be talking about? How could she do this to me? Like I was freaking out, and they're just passionate people talking. But even those hugs or the conversation, it doesn't need to even be physical, but that it's not like there's my man at the party and he's my man wherever he goes, because
Exactly.
then his communication is limited.
Completely. His communication, his energy. I
Yeah.
mean, ultimately, you want your man to be alive. You want your man to be full of his charisma. You want your man to be the sexiest man in the room. And if you're putting all these chains on him of what he can and can't do, you're dimming his light. He's not going to be the sexiest man in the room. And pretty soon, he's not going to be sexy to you.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when I was in New York, right, it was like I had freedom to walk around the room and hug. And and say hi and be in my flair, because I know my partner encourages me to be myself.
Yeah.
And that encouragement is what comes home to her. See, that's the other thing. When I go out and I'm just myself, I bring, even if there's a little flirtation going on with a woman
Mm-hmm.
at the grocery store, for example, there's no numbers exchange, but what if there's a little, a smile or a hi or whatever, and there's this little spark. I take that home. I
Mm-hmm.
take my aliveness and my juiciness, for lack of a better word, home to Heike. And so when I walk in the door, I'm in a big smile. I feel confident. It was like, wow, she found me sexy. I think that's cool, right? We all like to go out in the world and have people even flirt with us, because it makes us feel alive, wanted. We're still good looking, right? Who doesn't want that? And when you limit that to just your partner, and then your partner stops telling you how beautiful you are, again, we just end up dying. The
Yeah.
intimacy dies, the sex dies, the turn on dies, and then we end up, going out to cheat or breaking up.
Right. Right. Or even worse, staying in and not being. Yeah.
Miserable, right?
Yeah.
And trying to make it work.
Yeah. So I'm dancing in my mind about like, what should I do if I'm so jealous, and like really serving the people who might also feel that way. I asked the question on a scale of 1 to 10, how jealous are you? And somebody wrote 9 and somebody wrote 1. And so, our inner work is super important.
Yes.
What would you like? I imagine I'm more jealous. Here's what I know to be true though. When I have admitted jealousy, the other person I'm with totally opens their arms and says like, oh my God, I totally relate to that. Me too. I thought I was alone. Like there's a meeting in that.
Completely.
What I know to be true. And there usually has to be one person that will share first. Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. Listen, whenever Heike does come to me and say, well, that made me feel a little uncomfortable, or, this is, years ago.
Yeah.
I'm back to her speed. It was like, okay, wow, you are the most important thing in my life. Let's look at this, because if I did anything to cause that, I honor it, I see it, I feel it. I don't want to hurt you. And she's then the first one to do her own work, to go back and say, wow, that happened because of X. And again, the more we go back, I think that's the biggest step, is to own it, to communicate to your partner, yes, to not blame them, to not project, but to say, this feeling is coming up in me, and I really want to know why. I really want to know where it comes from, because it's not normal. Now, that said, there is a healthy, quote unquote, dose of jealousy, I guess, if you want to call it that. Meaning that if you're just completely flat with your partner and don't care what they do, then I'm not so sure the love is there, right?
Yeah.
There's a big difference between wanting your partner to feel free and not caring. Huge difference.
Huge. It's interesting. Before I said like, oh, jealousy as a turn on. And I'm remembering where that came from. Like in the DS world, it's like, oh, it's energy, right? So you can create a scene around it and all this stuff. And what you're talking about is like in a relationship where, oh, we just got an agreement from someone. When you're in a relationship, oh, Justine, hey, girl. When you're in this relationship and you care, and it's not about dismissing or using it to play, it's using it from your heart, like connecting your whole being with a person that you see over and over again in real life.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah,
exactly.
I want to make that separation or distinction, really.
But yeah, it is a fascinating topic, and it's one that continues to evolve. But I like I said, I think for me, when I first saw Heike kiss another man, it was there, right? I could feel it. I could feel this little bit of, wow, is that normal to not to like this, and maybe I don't like this. And there was this little squiggly moment, but I kind of just stayed with it. And again, because I've done so much and gotten these old triggers of abandonment and hurt out of my body, the triggers were, instead of being a 9, were maybe like a 1 or a 2. It puts them in a manageable place. Then they just kind of come up. You're like, oh, I see you, but you're not gonna run the show this time.
Yes.
I'm going to stay here anyways. And
Choice.
then and I started to find, wow, I actually like it when she kisses somebody else. It's like, it's such a turn on. Isn't that interesting? Now, it's not something we do all that often, but in general, I just find in my life, the more happy she is, the more that she can be herself, the more that she can engage with anybody, that just the happier I am and the happier she is. She came out of a relationship with so much jealousy from her ex-husband. Her body completely froze and shut down. She couldn't even ride horses anymore.
Hmm.
She wasn't allowed to work with men. She had to stop seeing all of her friends, and she, just like you said, she just continued little by little by little to do it. And next thing you know, she was just locked into this cage with this guy. And any wrong move, or even she used to tell me, if I looked at the guy at the grocery store the wrong way in the car, he would be questioning every little move I made. Why did you look at him that way? Why did you say this? Why did you say that? What a miserable existence.
Yeah. Yeah, I relate to that. My very first boyfriend when I was 14 was like that. I couldn't take the bus. Couldn't be here. It was like really, and it was why I ended it, but of course it annoyed me so much because I think I have the similar or just like that intense jealousy. And I also want to say, like, it sounds where you are right now in your relationship and how you work with people is like great. And it might start out very messy. Like it's not, yeah, I just,
We had 2 years of messy.
yeah,
Yes. Like I said earlier, we had our rough conversation.
yeah.
When I met Heike, I was oming a lot with women. I was going to my own pujas and parties and stuff. And I enter the relationship like, yeah, let's go do this together. And she's like, whoa, slow down, right? And so we had to navigate that. We were even at an event one time where I knew all the women in the room, not all, but a significant number. And let's just say there was not a great selection of men there that night.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a puja, right? And it was no sexuality. It was just a puja where people sit together and connect. Well, these women that I know would jump in my lap because they were happy to see me and because there weren't some great guys there. And they were giving me hugs and kisses and everything else while she was having a miserable time. And this was like one of our first events we went together. And so we had several days afterwards of, sitting in that muck of saying, this isn't working. And again, back to she pulled the muscle in that moment. Yeah. And what worked for us is Heike and I really committed to each other and only each other deeply for the first, probably 2 years of our relationship.
Beautiful.
So that she felt so secure, and this is what it comes down to, that she knows that no matter what, I'm staying with her. No matter who I meet, who I talk to, who I kiss, who I hug, there is no other woman on the planet that I want by my side as my wife. And she knows that at such a soul level,
yeah,
that she can grant me complete freedom because she knows she's the one. And I know, and vice versa. I know no matter what, she's coming home to me. And here's the other thing, Shane. If tomorrow she decides that she wants to meet this other guy, again, I don't own her. Would it hurt? Sure. But it's different. It's different these days for me. It's like, wow, if that's really what makes you happy, then go, because ultimately that's all I care about is you as a human being being so alive. And if being in this relationship makes you sad and miserable, and that one will make you alive and happy, please go live your life. You've got one life here. And who am I to lock somebody down into misery for part of their life? I had that happen to me and never again. So, yeah.
So powerful and so potent. Justine says that's beautiful, the depth of security. Yeah, it's like it's really beautiful. It's like,
I think that's where it starts. It's the security. It's really knowing deep down inside that your partner is not going to leave you, that you're worthy, that you're worth it, that they love you, that you are the best. And as soon as you really feel that and embody that fully, jealousy just magically disappears.
It's amazing. It's amazing. And so if people want to reach out to you, like let's say they're in their own relationship and you're in Cali Cal, sometimes you travel, but yeah, how can they find you? Or I mean, I can put whatever you want, but what are you passionate about helping people with these days?
Well, Heike and I's main business is what you said earlier, the somatic sexual healing. So we work as a couple, husband and wife, side by side, which makes us very unique in the sexual healing field. It allows women to feel completely uber safe because a woman is in the room at the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
And so with currently all of the drama going on in the tantra communities and the sexual healing field because of all the boundary crossing, we've created a container in such a way that it can't get any safer.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is really our specialty, is working with primarily women, although we do work with some men sometimes if they're in relationships, to help get all of this programming you've got as kids and generational and from your mother and from your father up and out of your body, so that you don't show up in that relationship with this baggage, right? You show up clean and without carrying the baggage of body pains and former relationship pains. And then another component of our work is, but this is mostly Heike, is relationship coaching around being able to communicate about all of this stuff. That communication is the number one fundamental tool. But when you carry that baggage, you can't even communicate, because what's communicating is the pain in the past.
Mm.
When you're having this conversation and you're talking from this pain, you're not really engaged in conversation. You're engaged in your pain body. And when your pain body's firing, I know for me, whenever I speak from my pain body, it's never been good. It's not like I ever woke up the next morning being like, oh, I'm so glad I said that last night, right? So being able to sit and really talk about these deep things that are important, and even if it's mucky, but to still stay in it, and not from a place of being triggered, but from a place of really honestly wanting to hear what your partner has to say. Listening, real listening, without putting the past into the conversation.
So, I mean, the value of having a sounding board and getting insight and advice and being asked the right questions is invaluable. So yeah. Well, this half hour went so quickly. It's such a juicy topic. I don't use that word a lot either, but it feels really full, like a plump orange or something. Yeah, so thank you so much. I mean, I welcome this, and I look forward to seeing a lot of people watching the replay in this group. So you'll see if people have questions or anything that you can see them and answer them.
Be happy to answer them.
Okay, awesome. Well, say hello to Heike for me and enjoy the sun. It's all snowy here in New York.
Oh, yes, it's about 80 degrees outside here.
Oh, well, I'd like to think my own intention for having this has been really a mutual journey for everyone to play with. So thank you so fucking much.
You're welcome, Jane.
Yes. All right. Have a beautiful rest of your day.
Okay, bye.